the F word that people are just so scared of. You did not have any experience in the field. You got pregnant, but you didn't want to do business. Did it ever feel like, oh, maybe I should give up?
Why is it not just working only for me? Female, especially Asian, Indian mother, I can't do this anymore. How much are you willing to work towards what you really, really want?
Namaste and welcome to Indian Women Abroad, a podcast where we share stories of migrant Indian women throughout the world. For today's episode, I have with me Obu, who is the founder of Smart Money Solutions. Welcome to the show, Obu.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, someone who's watching this and they're coming across you for the first time. I want you to explain to them what is it exactly that you do. And if they're watching this conversation through your journey, your experiences and challenges, what is the one thing that they can look forward to, that they can take from this conversation?
So, professionally, I am the CEO and founder of Smart Money Solutions, which is a mortgage broking firm. I started this in 2009. So it's about 16 years now that I've been doing this. I am a mother, I am an artist, so lots of different things. I feel like if I can do it, anybody can. So that's something that people can take away, that that everybody has potential. That's one thing I'd like to say today.
Yeah. No, I think the fact that you said you do so many different things, and one thing that you left out is that you're an author. We've got your books right here.
Yeah.
And, we're going to get into all of that. But with your business, how did the idea for, starting your own firm come about? You told me that you moved to Australia in 2006 and 2009. You were already running your own firm.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It's I don't know if to say if it's a funny story or but it's a true story. So I got married. My background is science. I studied Master of Science Biotechnology in India, but had not worked there, and it's an arranged marriage. So ended up coming here. My husband, he was already here. He came for his studies, and then he settled here. It's an arranged marriage, came here and looking for work. Like, I got pregnant straight away, so I couldn't find a job as well with visa restrictions and things like that. So when I had the opportunity, I reached out to various institutions and got a job as a volunteer with Baker IDI, which is somewhere in St. Kilda. And I did a great job. They were happy and they were ready to publish my name on a paper for a project I worked. But when it came to job opportunity, they said no. And that's when I realized, okay, I have to do something else. I had done my Cert 4 in mortgage broking a couple of years after I arrived here. And at that point, when I was so frustrated that even though, like, you've done a good job, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I had to make a choice, and I said, whatever happens next, I'm going to take that. It's either science or mortgage broking. And then this opportunity came about where I could start my own business, and there was this company who were training new brokers for like a couple of weeks of induction and everything else, and later they said they're going to place me with a mentor. So I thought, okay, why not? And it's the most bizarre thing, because when I came to Australia, I really did not want to start a business. My dad was and is still in business, so it used to be really long hours. And I thought, I really don't want to do this. All I want to do is a PAYG job, 9 to 5, go, come back and rest. Destiny had other plans for me.
Yeah, I think that's the funny thing about life. Now that you mention it, that oh, my dad was in business and I saw the long hours and I thought to myself, oh, I'm never going to do that. And when I tell people my story is that I always told my mom that I never want to live abroad. When I was in school, I would often say that even if I go, I'd probably go to study and always come back.
Yeah.
And after I got married, it's like, oh my God, this is a permanent move.
Yeah.
So I totally agree when you say that, destiny has plans for you.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that we spoke about is your journey to Australia. You said it happened through an arranged marriage. Can you tell me more about the part where you said that when you spoke to your parents about it, you said that if I'm getting, married in an arranged setup,
Yeah.
it has to be with someone abroad.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I felt very restricted in India. Like my parents are very liberal. I shouldn't even be saying this, but I still felt very restricted. My sister and I, growing up, we still have this conversation to this day. We thought we were never going to work in our lives because my parents were well to do. We thought, okay, we're going to get married into a wealthy family and just be a housewife. Like it's so funny where I am now. So that's what I thought. And I thought if being with my parents who are liberal makes me feel restricted, I couldn't imagine myself going into a relationship, staying there with family there. And I guess I'm a person who needs my freedom. So then I told my parents, okay, I need to be outside India. They were totally okay with it. Like my mom, she grew up for a bit in UK and we have family all over the world. But I thought I'm always going to go to either USA or UK. I didn't even know where Australia was on the map. And here I am in Melbourne 20 years later.
Yeah. So when they were looking for arrange, all these relationships, um, was Australia the only opportunity that came by, or did you come across other people from different countries as well?
So mine is horoscope matched.
Okay.
So I'm from the south of India, and there's so many castes and stuff. So they go and leave the horoscopes at different places, and people, like if you are looking for a bride, then the groom's family will come and pick up some horoscopes every month, and likewise, the bride's family do it as well. So there were other people from like US, UK, but again, destiny.
It was a match made, arranged.
Match made in heaven.
Yeah, match made in heaven. With, of course, this sort of instigation by your parents as well.
Yeah.
So when you moved here, did you find the freedom and independence that you were looking for? Or was it challenging? Because there's this, I don't know, do you want to call it a stereotype or a misconception? I do see it online where people are like, oh, why do NRIs keep complaining? And there are certain segments of NRIs who keep complaining that people in India have it so easy because they've got domestic help, they can hire people to do their work. And nowadays there's all this conversation about 10-minute delivery and so many controversies about it as well. So when you moved here, was it a culture shock or was it everything that you expected it to be?
First thing I want to say is the grass is always greener on the other side. Everybody have their own challenges. For me, with freedom came its own challenges. Yes, I did not have to deal with relationship issues. So if you look at people back in India, I'm sure, I feel like that's a land of drama. And there's less drama here because people really don't, I wouldn't say care, but mind who you are and you look after your own business. Yes, it'll be nice to have house help, quick delivery, things like that. But with it comes its own challenges. I'm sure they have their challenges where, they might look at us and say, oh, you mentally move free and we are always stressed, like if the maid doesn't come or this happens. So I think everybody have their own challenges. When I first arrived here, it was not a cultural shock. Like I said, my mom, she sort of grew up in UK, but I had my aunts traveling from overseas every now and then, so I knew how it would be. I did not have an issue fitting into Australia. There were some lovely people around me because I was not working as well. One of the biggest issue was when I was in India, I was very, very reserved person. I had only a handful of friends. Like I could literally count with one hand as to how many friends I had. That's the kind of person I was. But surprisingly, when I moved to Australia, I'm like, I can't be that person anymore. I need to talk to people, otherwise I'm going to go crazy.
Right.
So I started reaching out to people myself, looked out for opportunities where I could volunteer, and lots of things happened from there. So I changed completely to the person I was back in India.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think one of the biggest takeaways that I'm sort of understanding from your journey is that you also unlocked a different facet of your personality. That, oh, maybe I don't always have to be reserved, but oh, I can be a social butterfly and build all these circles, which is so interesting. And this is definitely something that I've tried to do as well, become more involved, more
Yeah.
outspoken, and just it's also part of the culture, right? People call it Aussie banter, Aussie chit chat, whatever you want to call it, but you still feel like people genuinely ask you that question. It's not, oh, how are you? And you see someone in your office and you just say, oh, I'm good. People really want to ask you, oh, how was your weekend? What are you going to do next weekend? Which I really appreciate that people make that sort of effort. But going back to smart money solutions, how did this journey from, studying science to mortgage and finances come about?
When I got married and came here, so my husband wanted to do mortgage broking, but at that time he was working for one of the banks. So even though he did his Cert 4, it's again a funny story. Like I helped him with this assignment, and I thought, wow, this is too easy. And is that all you need to do to be a mortgage broker? I was pregnant then with my son, and he started. He was only doing it for 2 months, and he realized he can't do both. He has to choose, so he left it. And from then on, he kept nudging me to say, "Why don't you become a broker?" And now looking back, I think these are all the universe nudges us sometimes, and we don't pay attention to it, and then it forces you, pushes you into something. So then in 2007, I did my Cert 4. Even then I did not want to become a broker. By 2008, like I was doing some work from home call center kind of thing because my son was young, and for me family is always my first priority. So I thought, okay, let me do something for a few years until he's old enough to go to childcare. So in 2008, by the end of it, I was like, my brain was like, I had enough of call center. I think I need to do either science or something. It was like craving for something more. So I reached out to all the research places and said, do you have a job for me? That's how I got my research volunteer job. I started in January 2009, and they said it's only a 6 or 7 months. So I knew it was going to end in July. So I did that for about 7 months. And when that job did not happen, I thought, I'm just going to go crazy again if I'm just going to sit there. So I was debating between two different, like we as brokers cannot approach the bank directly. We have to go through a middleman, like people would know about Aussie, which is more like you have to promote their brand. But there are other sort of agencies who act as middlemen. So I went to the one who was sort of offering coaching for brokers because I thought, wow, science to finance, I need really some hand holding to help me set up. Their only thing was, okay, when they paired me with a mentor, they said, my mentor said, I'll you can work for me for 3 months, but after that you have to start your own business, which I did not want to do. Again, in hindsight, I think it would have been better if I'd worked for someone for 12 months. At least I would have got a little bit more experience. But once I started my business, I got pregnant with my daughter. And so that was, again, like it was very, very challenging to, I would say even the first 4 years was very challenging because I did not work anywhere in Australia. I did not have a network. I don't know what I was thinking when I started my business, just jumped into it. And this is where I say, destiny has always a plan, and always looking back, I feel like we're like, oh yeah, that worked out perfectly for me, because if I'd gone into science and sort of like a PhD or research, I don't think I would have been able to spend that much time with my children when they were growing up. This perfectly worked out for me, and yeah, so that's how. And I always think, like, even with mortgage broking, I have to do research, but my background is research in science, so I think somehow it's all tied up really well.
Yeah.
Being methodical, being, trying to get a result. So all those traits have really helped me in my mortgage broking.
Yeah, I think it also makes me think about the fact that people say that you should continue learning because
Yeah.
whatever you learn, it's certainly going to help you in certain
Yeah.
other aspects of your life. And in your case, it seems like all your research skills were very easily transferable
Yes.
into the new career that you were pursuing. But you mentioned that you did not have any experience in the field. You got pregnant.
Yeah.
In general, you didn't want to do business. So in those years, did it ever feel like, oh, maybe I should give up? Were there any sort of phases like that, or were there certain moments that stand out to you like, oh, maybe this is going to work?
I don't think I ever thought this is gonna work until the probably last 6 years. I'm like, okay, everything is happening. I know that I'm certain that the universe is helping me with my life. Um, like I said, first 4 years was really hard. I was like, I still remember when I was pregnant. Um, we were like near St Kilda, so I used to drive to Dandenong every Friday,
Wow.
trying to team up with real estate agency and trying to work out to see if I can get leads from them every Friday. And then I used to do after hours appointment uh, because I did not want to go into random people's house by myself. And my son was very young as well, so I'll wait for my husband to come back from work. I used to make sure that dinner is packed, and we used to go as a family trip, and then they will be having dinner in the car while I go do my appointment and come back, and then we come back home. There were like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went. After the first few years, when I did not make as much money as I thought, this is gonna bring, I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. There's been like so many turning points in my life when things like, I'm like, okay, this is it, I can't do this anymore. Something comes up and I'm pursuing it. One such thing was a course I did that came up at that time. It was a lot of money even then. This was 2013, money that I probably did not have. And that's how I wrote my first book, Smart Women, Smart Home Loans. So that coaching sort of really helped me. I thought, okay, maybe if I do this, I'm going to have some plan in place to distinguish myself. At that point in time, there were not many female brokers, so we always had to look up to male brokers. And as you would know, a female, especially Asian, um, Indian mother, has sort of different priorities. We want to take care of a family, but also to grow a business, and we want to have it all. So it was very hard for me to have a model or a mentor to say this is how things should be. When I wrote this business through that network, I got an opportunity, and that was my magical break. Started working with a person, and from there business just took off. That my husband also, he was in the phase of finding his next job. So then he once my business took off, and then he thought, okay, maybe he can also try and do something else without having that pressure. So like, I was so busy. I used to have 14 to 16-hour work days. So he was the looking after children and being a home dad. So like, there's been so many points like that in my life. And like I said, only in the last 6 years I don't start crying at stuff when it happens. But there's been so many instances where I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Like your answer, I literally had goosebumps because there's so much to take away from that. Um, First of all, for people who don't know, the distance between St. Kilda and Dandenong is about 1.5 hours each side. So for you to take your kids and your husband to come after work and to make that drive, that requires so much sacrifice and devotion on both your parts, which is so commendable. And kudos to your husband as well, because I know, and in a way, like a lot of people would say that this is not extraordinary, but in an Indian or a South Asian setup, we know how many people just scrape by on the bare minimum. So it does show how devoted he was for you and for your family to make it work. And the second part of it was, I totally get, being a female broker in what is predominantly, to date, a very male dominated industry. For an Indian woman with kids, with family to take care of, it couldn't have been like, it wasn't easy at all. Like, there's no coating it. And when you're working in a different country, the culture, the environment is so different. And you say the last 6 years were the years where you feel like, okay, now this is working. But to me, it sounds like such a long journey, like stretching over a decade, where you were sort of devoted, that this is what I'm going to make.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, I am committed and we're going to make it
Yeah.
work, which is so, so amazing. So it makes me so happy that it has worked out for you so well.
Yeah.
But talking about the book, how did that course sort of inspire you to translate all your learnings into a book?
So I'm a person, if I take on something, I have to finish it. I cannot do a half or a sloppy job or do halfway and I'm like, it's difficult. I can't do that. That's in my genes, thankfully, which is why I've sustained for so long. And also going back to when I said the last 6 years is when I'm feeling okay. I'm not talking more about business. Through this journey as well, like I've done a lot of work on myself spiritually as well. I am explored various, no, I'm a Hindu, but I've explored various um, mod, modules, or different aspects of how I can, or how one can live their life. And I mentioned this in my various talks as well, like people believe in God, some people don't believe in God. My personal opinion is, whether you believe in a particular God or not, there is some higher power which really helps us, and that's my belief. And sometimes when people are frustrated, they're like, why is it not just working only for me? I, in the last 6 years, believe every single thing that happens is for my own good. In that moment, like when I did not get my science job, I was very frustrated. I'm like, how much more can I work or show my potential? But it's worked out really well. So that is what I'm saying. In the last 6 years, I believe more in the universe, and there's certainty that everything that happens, like if I get a client, that's for a reason. If a client goes away, that is for a reason. That kind of comfort I have in my life, which I did not have. I don't know if it comes with age as well, with wisdom. Going back to the book, that was a hard journey in itself. Like, I think there were about 40 people who took on the course, but only about 5 or 6 people wrote the book actually in during that course. The course itself was about 10 months, and I was one of them who finished it. I'm like, if I go all in, I am in. So that's how I did that, and it was amazing at that time, to have had that opportunity, to be able to go through that journey. And because of that, and I had a good mentor, I had the confidence to write my second book, which only happened in 2020.
And your first book is obviously more focused around home loans.
Yeah.
But the second book is also focused around smart habits.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that? Because I feel like in today's day and age, people keep talking about the cost of living crisis. And a lot of people say that owning a home is not a possibility for them in their lifetimes. But on the other hand, I feel like on social media, there's also been a surge in, I wouldn't say influencers, but maybe certain internet personalities who are encouraging youngsters, especially women, to start investing, being fiscally responsible, and things like that. Can you talk about this book and about smart financial habits in general that you feel can make some difference, if not a considerable difference, in someone's life?
Okay. I started goal setting, I don't even know how long, probably 10 years ago. Through again all of these journeys, I'm always looking to learn something new and see what I can do. So yeah, probably around 10, 11 years ago, I started goal setting. And in this book, I've mentioned that there are 8 wheels of life. Um, when you look at finance, I mean, our life is not just finance or not just health, it's a whole thing. So I felt that you have to set goals in all those aspects. Sometimes, they say, one as if health is good, maybe your finance is not good, or if finance is really doing well, your health, different aspects that have spirituality, relationships, personal finances, and then your business or employment or things like that. So looking at the whole picture is how you can set up yourself for success. One thing that has always either I've read or through the years that have come to me is knowing what you want in terms of finance. People always, we as Indians, we come to a different land and we carry our ancestors' thoughts to say, oh, you first have to buy a house regardless of whether you can afford it or not. Otherwise, you have not done well in your life. So that kind of mentality is not going to help anybody. Even though I was a mortgage broker, we couldn't afford to buy a house for a really long time because I had to pump money back into my business and grow the business and things like that. So people always used to ask me, oh, you're a mortgage broker, you don't have a house. I'm like, that is really irrelevant. You don't go to a surgeon who's had cancer to perform the cancer surgery. So the idea is that you know what you want. If you don't know, you're always going to be running behind something. This Tony Robbins book as well on something it's called Money, where he says, list down your ideal life, like the absolute best, what you, let's say, you want to get a cleaner in every week, you want to take an international trip, things like that. List everything that is a priority to you, and that's the only place where you can start working backwards, to say, okay, this is how much money I need to make, and this is how much I need to save to attain that kind of financial freedom. And that book is about that. For me, habits has served so well through my years here, and I always think back to say, a lot of the things that I am, or things that are coming to me, ideas, whatever, is all from my homeland, India. And why was I not doing this when I was in India? Maybe it was a plan. Maybe I had to come out of it for a lot of things to click for me. So habits have really helped me, and I strongly, like, even this year, goal setting every year in December, my family, my children and I, my daughter, she's been goal setting since she was like about 4 years old or
Oh,
something.
wow.
Used to be like an activity in December that we do as a family. So small things like that, you have to change. If something is not working for you, you cannot keep doing the same thing and expect different results. Try something else. Maybe again, it's not easy. Yeah, people always set goals in January, and by February it's forgotten. So it's taking those small steps, and they say, if you do it for 21 days or 48 days, then it's going to become a habit, and not cramming too many things on the vision board. I end up creating a vision board after the goal setting and have it there so I can see. Like today, I have a Mini Cooper, but that was on my vision board for 8 years before I was able to afford a Mini Cooper. So people lose that interest, or after, like, oh, I put it, it has to happen in another 2 months or by the end of the year. It's not going to work that way. How much are you willing to work towards what you really, really want? That is the thing. Like, if you really want to lose some weight, you want to look a certain way, how much are you willing to? And it's not like, you do it for 1 year and you achieve your goal and it's gonna stay there. Yeah, same for me in business. Like, if I do well and I stop, it's not going to continue. So it's a constant thing. So life is a marathon. How much are you willing to keep going to achieve whatever? And if you're not, maybe it's not the right goal for you. You need to think about what else, what is actually that you want in life. And there's no right or wrong. And that's where people, comparison, is a thief of joy. So people look at somebody else and like, I want that. But do you know how much sacrifice they've made to achieve that? Are you willing to go through that? If not, have your own goals. There's going to be times like, I've wanted to do so many things, but when my children were young, that's not possible. So as they've grown older, like I go on solo trips, like for work, or with my girlfriends, all of that is possible. So you need to have a bit of patience to achieve what you want. And sometimes also having somebody by your side who can guide you is a really good thing. Like, a financial planner. If you're really not able to achieve and you're making good money, then maybe have a conversation with a professional to see how they can help you achieve your goals.
No, that's so interesting, all those things that you shared, especially that part where you talked about, people keep comparing themselves with other people. And in today's day and age, it's not just your immediate vicinity, it's people all over the
Social
world
media.
on social media that, oh, I want that life, or I want that boyfriend, that car, that house, whatever it is. But people don't understand the amount of effort that goes into, getting a certain type of lifestyle. it's aspirational, and that's a good, mindset to be in. But what are you willing to sacrifice, the sort
Mm.
of, efforts that you're supposed to make? Especially that part where you mentioned about vision boards.
Mm.
I know a lot of people like on the internet
Yeah.
who are making vision boards, but a lot of people say, oh, it's a bit woo woo, it doesn't really happen. But just having it on the board is not enough. It's
You have
not
to
gonna
take
come to
action.
you.
Yeah.
It's to inspire action, but if you're not taking that action,
Yeah.
how is that life gonna turn out? You're just gonna
Mm.
say, oh, it doesn't work, but what have you done to make it work?
Yeah.
So, and you talked about you do it as a family, and your daughter does it very religiously with you. And I'm interested in knowing how old is she now?
She's 15 now, a
Okay,
teenager. It's a bit harder to convince them to do stuff
okay,
now, but when she was younger, my son as well,
yeah.
both of them, we used to sit and do. And at one point, I even got my husband to do vision board with us. So, yeah.
And what sort of things do kids put on their vision board?
For kids, it's simpler. Like I mentioned, the 8 wheels of life that I have in here, which is more, I think, appropriate for adults. For children at that point in time, I used to say, "What do you want from like school next year? Maybe get good grades, eat healthy." So you put pictures of fruits or whatever. If they have extracurricular activities, what do you want to achieve in that? Things like that is it's quite simple for them, and again depends on the kid what they want to put on that, however they want to depict. That's what they used to do.
And have there been any instances or things they put up on their vision boards that made you think like, oh wow, that's how kids think?
My kids, I've learned a lot from them, especially my daughter. Us, I think we're both two headstrong people, so it's always like that's one of my journeys as well. Trying to unlearn what I think is the right way or the right thing, and then to relearn. Uh, I've had this conversation with a lot of friends as well, like kids who have been either born here or growing up here. They are more mature, um, sometimes even more mature than us who have come from abroad and trying to change our ways. So that way, I'm really grateful to both my children. Of course, there are a lot of things that have happened as well. Like both of them got into selective school, which I'm really grateful for. But I always say that's why you have to put in the effort as well. It's not just enough having it there. It's not like I never used to be a believer of woo woo. Yeah, like I'm from science. My brain is like A plus B equals C. But for me to have embraced this, and that's what I'm saying culturally as well, coming out of there, different people, mentors have appeared. My first introduction to spirituality was through my mentor who suggested I read Autobiography of a Yogi, which was one of the books I keep going back to again and again. Like that, I've done a lot of spiritual people have come and I embrace, and I'm like, okay, I'm more curious now. Whereas in India, you studied there, you would understand. Yeah, when you go to school, you have to follow rules. You're not allowed to ask questions. So you live with that mentality for like 20, 25 years of your life, and all of a sudden you come here and you don't know any other way. So I've had to learn that it's okay to not follow rules in some instances, ask questions, because that used to be my nature back in India. I always used to ask why, what, but you were always shushed. They're like, no, 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 you can't. You're a girl. You need to, just listen. And so that's been one of my biggest things I've learned is that it's okay to be curious. It's okay to try and fail. You don't always have to know be the best or know the answers. By failing, you learn. And that has been a big part of my journey in the last 8 years. I'm okay to try and fail, whereas previously I'm like, no, if I try, I have to succeed. Mm.
Yeah, but I think that's also very interesting because failure to me feels like it's part of success,
Mm.
right? Because if you don't fail, how would you know that you've succeeded? It's exactly how some people say, how would you know there's happiness in your life if
There's no sadness.
if there's no sadness?
Yeah.
It's like the journey of the ups and downs. And failure to me seems like the F word that people are just so scared of or shy away from.
Yeah, see here, like now I understand, yeah. And also, after a certain age, you're like, okay, that is what it is. But back in India, like, you go to school, if you fail in your subject, your teacher's like, what is this? And they shame you in front of, and then it goes into your mind, okay, you can't fail. Looking at school, all you want to do is get good marks. If you don't get good marks, you don't get appreciated. So that kind of mentality sort of sets in. But coming out of India, I feel like, okay, like, even I don't know, back, I've never worked anywhere, so I don't even know. Like, if you go to an corporate environment and then you fail, are they okay with that? Maybe here back in India, what sort of comments or things come across you? And then nobody wants to be, in that kind of where they are embarrassed or made to think that they're not good enough. So I feel like that. But having read so many books, having done so much of growth development things on myself. Yes, I understand now. Life is duality you need to have. So these are the things I try and teach my children as well, because they need to understand it's okay to fail. It is going to be ups and downs. Yeah. So everything, each emotion has the opposites, and that's how life is going to be. And I wish I'd learned it when I was younger, but I'm glad that at least I've had the opportunity to explore all that now.
Oh, that's amazing. And now that you're a CEO, you've got a family, you've got a thriving business, you write, you speak, you do all these different things. How do you manage all of that?
I am a big believer that life is not just for working, and I've told this to many people as well. I volunteer at my daughter's school. I've done it for the last 5 years on the parent council. When I first came here and I said I was craving for interaction, I reached out to the mothers group, which was run in, I was in Elwood actually, which had the largest mothers group in all of Australia. There were like 700 families.
Wow.
So I was on the committee there. And then the second year I was a little bit more confident. So I helped them organize a big art kind of a project. I sourced like tiles and coordinated and did all of that. So through my journey here, I've always been a big believer that I want to give back to the community. Then I volunteered for some time at my local organization. So I feel like I cannot just work. It's not for me. Like, even today, I tell my children, somebody who's been in business for 16 years, some people would look at me and say, oh, you're not doing enough. But for me, that is enough. And that's where I think I know what brings me joy and happiness. I'm also an artist, so I like to paint. I take vocal lessons, which I started about like 5 years ago, going back. So all these components are a part of my journey, and I know my priorities. Like, when I'm working, I'm fully focused, but I need all these components around me. Otherwise, I don't think I'll thrive if I'm just working. It doesn't suit me.
And you seem to be, to me, to someone like who's very tapped in to their cultural roots as well. You've spoken about spirituality, and when I told you that, when you asked me, "Oh, do I have to wear a sari?" and you seem very excited about dressing up. How do you keep in touch with your culture? And now that your kids are born here, how do you sort of transfer that cultural tradition, that sort of mindset, the festivals to them?
Back in India itself, like I told you, my mother had that influence growing up. So we had opportunities. Like, even though I come from a really small place where it was very conservative, my parents were very open minded. Like, I could wear short skirts, do whatever. But what they taught me is know how you need to be in different scenarios and situations, which is what I try and transfer to my children. Like, my daughter, she's so modern, but she's also traditional. She's learned the Indian classical dance, Bharatanatyam. Her debut is happening in March this
Oh,
year,
wow.
so she's trained for 10 years. So I've tried and instill in them to say, this is our culture. It's not the be all do all, because I myself, even though I'm Hindu, like I said, I've done explored spirituality in different like Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, and we embrace everything, and I make what is suitable for me. So I teach that to my children as well and say, know your roots, but in the future, whatever calls them, that's what is going to be. And as a mother, I feel like, I've taught them what I need to teach, and they really embrace it well.
No, that's amazing. And for my final question, obviously you watched the episode, so you know what's coming. Is if someone who's watching this, they could take one advice from you. Either they've just moved abroad, thinking of moving abroad, or they've been here for a couple of years but still feel lost. What's a piece of advice that you would give them?
Life is a marathon, so don't try and do everything like in the next few days or year. Pace yourself, know what you want. There are a lot of amazing people around us. It's a really good thing to reach out and find your community, because without a community, we're going to feel so lost. So find that community, set up yourself with people who are going to root for you, and that's the only way you can achieve success.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked Obu's advice, she has shared so much from vision boards to, fiscally responsible habits. Share it with someone that you like. Like the episode, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.